Today I'm going to be talking about the cultural differences between Japan and Puerto Rico. I have the Japanese flag as well as where Japan is located in our world. And then I have the Puerto Rican flag and where Puerto Rico is. It's right underneath the United States below Cuba. So the typical Japanese meal is a bowl of rice, a bowl of miso soup, pickled vegetables, fish or meat. And although rice is a staple for Japanese meals, they also eat several kinds of noodles, such as udon. I think it's very common when you go to a Japanese restaurant. And then the typical Puerto Rican meal includes lots of appetizers and soups. Puerto Ricans, typically, their most popular dish is beef stew, meat pies, and they also are seen to use most vegetables in all their meals. They have rice, beans, and they use every piece of the animal when they're cooking. So they use tongue, feet, ears, and things like that most people just throw away. So family life in Japan, family is foundational part of the Japanese society. An individual's identity, reputation, obligations, and responsibilities are deeply connected to their family. The traditional household structure is known as IE, which refers to a multi-generational household with a patriarchal head, and the patriarch maintains authority and responsibility for all the members, and their homes are usually located near the extended family's husband. So family is important to Puerto Rico, that they even have a name for it, which means strong family connections, and I might mess it up, but it's familiosmo. Puerto Rican culture places a high level of importance on family and family honor. This does not just include immediate family, but also aunts and uncles and cousins. Puerto Rico is a culture that follows the extended family model. So school in Japan is 6 years in elementary, 3 years of junior high, 3 years of high school, and finally 2 to 3 years in a junior college or a 4-year college. They go to school 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, but some schools I did find also go on Saturdays. They have 6 class periods a day that are 50 minutes long each. Students actually clean the classrooms after classes are over. Then they get to club activities. The school year begins in April and ends in March of next year. They have summer break from July to August, winter break at the end of December to the beginning of January, and then they get a spring break from the end of March to the beginning of April. So they are going to school year round and don't really get too much of a break. School in Puerto Rico is actually modeled after the United States. So they go to school Monday through Friday. I did not see any days for Saturday. So they have primary or elementary education. That's first through 6th grade. Lower secondary school, known as intermediate or junior high, is 7th through 9th grade. And then upper secondary or high school, that's 10th through 12th. And I did find that over half the students that try to go to college in Puerto Rico fail to graduate. Next, the gender roles in Japan. Japanese society has traditional expectations of gender norms. Fathers are head of the households and are the main income providers, whereas the women and mothers manage the household and raise the children. Gender roles in Puerto Rico used to be the same. They were traditional. However, since the 1900s, female leaders of the household have become more common. Like Japan, fathers are also usually head of households and the main income provider. Mothers can be leaders, but are still mostly the ones that raise the children. But many generations take part in the rearing of infants and children if the mother does and the father works. So that means family will come and take care of the kids. So childcare in Japan, they offer childcare for newborns and school-age students, whereas Puerto Rico does offer things, but usually family will actually come and watch the kids rather than them being enrolled in daycare. Affection, so public displays of affection in Japan is considered rude, especially if you're of the opposite sex. They do not do any kissing, hugging, or hand-holding. Even families do not hug, touch, or display affection in public. Kissing in public is becoming more common but it isn't something you'll see very often if you ever visit Japan. Whereas Puerto Rico is the opposite. They hug, it's customary to have kisses on the cheeks when you say hello and goodbye, and then as soon as you meet someone, you actually get a handshake. So I was looking at punishment for children in Japan, and as of February 20th, 2020, Japan prohibited all corporal punishment for children. And if this is an unofficial translation, I'm not going to read it all the way through, but it says a person who exercises parental authority over a child shall not discipline the child by inflicting corporal punishment upon him or her. So they do not think any form of corporal punishment is acceptable for children. So Puerto Rico is the opposite. Again, they follow American model and techniques. Most parents use corporal punishment, while some parents don't believe in it. And most of them go by you do what you are told or you are punished. They believe in spanking from belts, twigs, branches, flip-flops, anything really around. So I was looking up facts about the health in Japan versus Puerto Rico. Life expectancy in Japan is 84 years old, whereas in Puerto Rico it's 79 years old. And then in Japan, 1.8 deaths in every 1,000 birth of babies. So 1.8 deaths in every 1,000 babies, whereas Puerto Rico is 5.07 deaths in every 1,000 live babies born. And then Japan's obesity rate is 3.6%, whereas Puerto Rico is 32.6%. So that is a huge jump in the cultural differences between them. So birthing options in Japan, they prefer to have natural unmedicated childbirth. That is the normal standard practice there, but they will have C-sections. It is offered if it is needed. They encourage breastfeeding, and the mothers are taught by nurses or the nurse midwife to nurse, bathe the child, and care for their newborn. Whereas in Puerto Rico, they do have child natural births and they have C-sections, but I didn't see much about Puerto Rico because a lot of towns in Puerto Rico are low income, so it's really whatever the parents can afford. And then beliefs and values. So in Japan, they have the Shinto and Buddhism, and they are the state religions of the area. They believe in spirituality and removing imperfections. Core values include thinking of others, doing your best, not giving up, respecting your elders, knowing your role, and working in a group. And then something I found really interesting is only 1.5% identify as a type of Christian in Puerto Rico, which is very different from the United States here. And then finally, in Puerto Rico, Catholicism is the main religion. 75 to 85% are either Catholic or have a strong Catholic ties. Core values include family, respect, education, language, religion, and pride. And then I went ahead and added a picture, and this is a very known church in Puerto Rico. And then my last page is my reference page.